Hi, my name's Pete Simcoe, and I'm here with Jim Malcolm of Human Eyes. Hi, Jim.
Hey, Peter, how are you today?
All right, I'm good, thank you. Um, Today, I thought it'd be good to talk about some of the things that you're doing with the Vuze XR and some of the other Vuze products that you have, and talk generally about Human Eyes and where things are going. So,
I think it's a
hmm,
great idea. And what's really kind of fun about this is we are actually in Facebook Spaces, and I think I kind of look a little bit better in Spaces than I do in real life.
I,
So
I certainly
I
look
think I'll
younger.
take that.
I look younger, and yes, and the sun is
And the
always
really fun
out.
part, yeah,
The
right?
sun is always out in Facebook Spaces. So,
That's it's absolutely amazing and fun. And a lot of what we're doing at Humanized Technologies is creating camera products and systems that let people record the entire world around them and bring it to life in virtual reality. And this is a perfect example here of bringing together a beautiful picture in virtual reality that was shot with some of the Vuze equipment.
yes, in fact, I shot this last night, and yeah, it's come out very, very well. So Jim, I don't know if you want to give me a little bit more about your background and your interests, and so tell me what your role is at Human Eyes.
There you go. Let me give you my role first. So I am the Global Chief Marketing Officer, responsible for putting messaging into the consumer's hands and really help drive the adoption of this technology. I have to be honest with you, I'm new to the role. So
Ah,
I'm not new to marketing. I've been doing that my whole career. I spent a lot of time at Sony Electronics, then
okay.
joined Ricoh, and actually launched Ricoh Theta, which was one of the world's
Ah,
first 360
okay.
cameras.
Yes, yeah, bought one.
And then thank you very much. And then I joined Humanize because they specialize in stereo, 3D, and VR stuff. So that's what I did. But if you go back to some of the other things I like to do, I was actually
Yes.
prepared. So I'm
Ah,
also a photographer. So this is a shot that I took at Manhattan Beach in LA. Not very different here. Let's see if I think we can actually
yeah, yeah.
zoom this in a little bit here. Whoops. There we
There
go.
we go. Yeah.
Somewhere here's the camera, right? You get a nice view. Or you know what? The other thing you do in spaces, if you're not happy with the size of something, you can resize it. And look at
Well,
this. We can make it giant like that.
I think you can also put it on the giant. This is the other thing you can do. Put it on the giant screen. Ah,
Oh, there you
it's
go.
but yeah.
I got it that way too. So I'm a photographer. I've been in the imaging space my entire career. And so doing this natural extension of taking the world around us and bringing it into a virtual reality headset is just,
Hmm.
it's really easy for me to get my head around that.
So, what does a chief marketing officer at Human Eyes do every day?
We do a little bit of everything. I study the market itself, try to understand where people are using cameras and what their expectations are. And then, of course, we do the back end of how do we get more people to see this
Yes.
technology. So if you, not to get too nerded out on the technology, right? But right now we're in what's called the early adopter phase, which tend to be very tech savvy people who really want to go out and spend the money for one of these headsets or, want to go and experiment. But the industry is quickly moving to what's called the early majority, which means that kind of those early mass market consumers are saying, wow, this is amazing. How can I get involved?
So things like I guess things like Facebook itself have the ability to put some of the images that the camera that Human Eyes creates with the Vuze cameras to put those on Facebook is opening up a new world because people are seeing them on their timeline and they're becoming more and more. I guess ubiquitous is the word. I mean, there's greater and greater access to these cameras, and so more and more people want to engage with the technology.
Absolutely. And why Facebook is such an interesting platform is if people are watching this don't know, Oculus, which is one of the leading headset manufacturers, is actually owned by Facebook.
Ah,
So Facebook has a very strong interest in putting virtual reality and immersive imaging capabilities into the products so that you can actually do things like we're doing here today in Facebook Spaces.
yes, it's actually very easy. I mean, not to promote we're not here to promote Facebook as such, but it's actually very easy to drop Vuze images into Facebook Spaces and also onto the timeline to show other people. I mean, it's incredibly easy just to drop those in. And does the does the Human Eyes VR Studio, does that input the tags as well to actually just drop it straight into Facebook?
It does. It's a great question, because whether you're in Facebook or YouTube or Veer or 360 Today or, Gear VR, any of the platforms, what we've done is we have used a standard open industry platform. So we output what's called MPEG-4 files, and those could be pulled directly into any of the platforms. And you talked about the metadata or the tags.
Yeah.
So we embed all of that information right into the files.
So there's no additional editing required, nothing, because occasionally Facebook output, there is the possibility to download like a template that you can drop images onto, but there's absolutely no need to do that.
That's right. And so there's still a big learning curve, right? So there's so many different creators making a lot of different things, and all of the platforms right now are getting so many different file formats in and different aspect ratios and stuff. Yes. And they're all still finalizing that. So even earlier today when we were testing some stuff, I put in a video that didn't look right. Yeah. Not because it wasn't a great video. It looks amazing on the screen, but for some reason in Facebook Spaces, it was a little bit kind of distorted. Yes. So that's when I say we're moving from that early adopter who's willing to put up with the development into that early majority consumer who's less willing to say, why does this display this way, right? So they don't know, hey, do I blame the camera? Do I blame my upload? Do I blame the platform? Do I blame, like, why didn't it work? And this is why as an industry, we're moving forward into this bigger consumer market, not just from a camera technology, but also reliability of the headsets with something like as simple as a $200 Oculus Go, which is just an amazing little headset.
So that transition into the next phase of the technology is enabled by some of these problems, some of these different formats, some of the teething problems being resolved, which is opening up the doors.
Exactly. And so, we've got all these little spheres around here and pictures and all that kind of stuff. And each one of them has kind of solved a little bit of a problem over time, right? So it's just a matter of creating more, I'm going to call it art, because at the end of the day, it's pictures and video, and some of it's practical and some of it's artistic and it's all over. Absolutely. But it's about creating more of that and putting it into virtual reality and continuing to communicate, right? So a lot of people that I talk to at trade shows and stuff think, oh, VR is isolating. I don't want to sit there and look at my own pictures. But the real strength of virtual reality is social VR, when you can actually interact with somebody. And this is what's going to help drive why I want to share my life in virtual reality.
Well, certainly in this situation here, it does feel very interactive, very engaging when I'm talking to you here. And obviously we have this background that I took last night, but do you want to show some of the other backgrounds that you have, Jim, that have been created?
Actually, what I'd like to do right now,
okay,
is I want to try to drive left-handed in a spider.
Okay. Do you know what? I may have one right here. I have one right here.
Look at that.
So, Jim, actually, you're on the passenger. You're on the passenger side. How are we going to swap over?
I know. So I'm going to. I think I can hide all of this stuff, or maybe you can.
I'm going to hide the table. So we're both in the driver's seat.
I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to try to get in the driver's seat here a little bit. Now, for me to shift as a lefty,
there's the gear stick just down there. There's the gear stick for you.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's one thing to drive on the left side of the road, but to shift left or right hand side of the road, but to shift left-handed, it's really hard for me to get my head around. But what a great car! In fact, I'm going to grab this little panel here for a second, and I'm going to show something that's kind of cool. So we're going to zoom out wider on here, right? So our audience can see really wide, and then we can look all around. So this is a 360-degree video. As I spin around and make you all sick, right? That was that Peter shot. And I can look down, see that you can't see the camera, you can't see anything. You can go all the way up to the roof. It's such powerful technology to get started. And the fact that you can hide all of the other stuff that's around, it's really immersive. Really cool.
This was actually one of the first tests I did with the Vuze XR camera. And you can really see the color and the contrast. I did some minor editing in Photoshop just to bring out a few items and maybe sharpen it slightly from my own. That was my own fine tuning. But the reality was that it came into Photoshop with very, very little needing doing to it. And I think that's one of the main, again, not to promote the Vuze XR specifically, but that for me, that's one of the it's one of the big leaps for me in terms of 360 cameras. I mean, personally, if we're going to go into my own personal interest in terms of VR and 360 video, etc., I actually really enjoyed the 3D side of things. So 3D 180, and actually I don't really have much 3D 180 here to show. I've taken a lot of different examples of that, but that's the thing that really interested me. I mean, years back when I knew that the Vuze and the Vuze Plus was coming out, for me that was just amazing news, because I love 360 and I love 3D. So for me, it was a no-brainer to start using that camera, and I still love using it today. And the fact that it does have that versatility of the 2D, you know, the 360, the 3D as well. It was just great to use, and I used it in a variety of experiments, really. And yeah.
So I have to ask, right? So at some point in your career, you decided, hey, I'm doing something, and I don't know what that something is. And then you started doing VR and filmmaking and videos. And how did you go from where you were to where you are?
It's a strange one, because when I was young, I was always interested in some of the sci-fi stuff. Like, there was even films, I have to say, not personally, I don't think it's an amazing film, but Lawnmower Man was a great introduction to virtual reality. If you remember that. Yeah, not the greatest film ever made, but it was along the lines of, you know, demonstrated where the future was going to a degree. I mean, it's a kind of fantasy film, but talking about virtual reality. I actually did a degree in industrial design and technology. We had to get involved with CAD. We had to get involved with visualization. It was all about spaces, and it was all about the understanding of distance and objects relative to each other. So then when I graduated, I didn't do so much industrial design. I actually got more interested in the 2D side of what I've been doing as an undergraduate, and developed and started my own company, Simcoe.co.uk, as a graphic, shameless promotion, as a graphic design, video, and photography company. And so from there, it was that blend and that journey of being into 2D, 3D, and understanding the visualization and understanding objects and their relationship to each other that drove that interest. That suddenly, yes, you love video, but you can kind of almost have this CAD feeling to it, where you start bringing in the 3D using 3D cameras, and so gradually the technology has been reduced in size and complexity, and basically the cost of it. Making it more and more accessible for people to try these things and achieve a good standard, a good result.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that we're seeing right now at Humanize is, how do we attract more people kind of into the category? So if you have a minute, what I'm going to do, actually, let's bring back our table.
We're bringing back tables and... Okay.
Yeah, I'll bring all this back. But what I'm going to grab here real quick is I'm just going to grab another video. I'm going to take you to, let's see, where do I want to take you, actually?
Maybe drop it in.
I'm going to take you to, maybe this will look familiar too. This is kind of fun because you can actually drop it in the middle, or on these round spheres like this, you can just bring them up to your face like this.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Okay.
See, now you got a new toy to play with.
And yes, I'll be experimenting with that.
Yeah, there you go. So what we're in here is we are inside of the pool area at a hotel in Las Vegas. This happens to be the Encore and the Encore and Win and Encore.
Okay.
That one's the Win, and that one's the Encore. But we're by the pool. And so this video is shot in full 360. In fact, if you zoom out to 1x there on the controls for a second, you'll see you get a much bigger field of view, and you can look around and you can see, oh, wow, there's a lot here.
Yes.
But a lot of people have a hard time trying to understand, like, what in the world can I do with this technology? So one of the things we're trying to do is to get more people to start to use VR. So I'm going to now add another video to the middle of us. In this case, I'm going to put this into the middle of the table. And in this case, you probably want to turn, there you go, and we can zoom in. We go back into 3x. There you go. So this back here is a Facebook stories video. Now you see it's stories because it's this vertical orientation, right? That they like. So I can either do Instagram stories, IGTV, or any of the vertical formats. But I started with the same 360 video or 360 picture that we were just looking at, but I scripted it into a little 9-second video that kind of makes you really feel like. So when you like you're there. So when you're going through an Instagram or a Facebook post, you get this kind of artistic kind of jump in to look at your pictures.
And the idea,
it's a way to kind of
that's a kind of phone screen format. That's the idea?
Exactly. So that's Instagram and Facebook, like that phone screen vertical format. Instagram, on the other hand, let me grab one more video here if I have it out here. Thought I do. Yeah, I do. Here's one. This is one. Now this is a different video, but this one actually I shot in a square file format, because in a square file format, that's what Instagram likes in its regular Instagram posts, right? So this started as a 360 video and ended as this kind of square file format. And it looks like I have a drone following me, right? Or leading me. But believe it or not, I'm actually carrying the camera and walking through. In fact, when we walk past this family, you'll see I'm going to do a big sweep and a zoom here at the end of this video. But we can really bring a lot of things to life with the camera in a 2D world, because I captured everything with me around in 360 degrees. So I made that video afterwards.
Wow. Okay, post-production.
Let me take that out of there. Yeah, in this one's post-production. Let's see, how can I get rid of that? There we go.
Yep.
I think I got it. Yeah, so that's post-production, all in a mobile lifestyle. So that's 4K video that's been output.
Yeah.
Now the Vuze XR actually can also do 5.7K resolution.
Yes.
But unfortunately, mobile phones don't have enough power yet to take care of 5.7. And, I got a lot of people who talk to me and they're like, well, the difference between 4K and 5.7 is not that much. It should work. And I try to explain it this way. A 4K video is about using a 7 megapixel camera and taking 30 frames per second, right? That's basically what 4K video is, right? 5.7K is a 16.5 megapixel image at 30 frames per second. So it's more than twice the file size when you go from 4K to 5.7. And that's why mobile phones have a hard time with that much data.
Yeah, and in addition, I mean, for me, I think I tend not to view, this is my personal choice, I tend to go to YouTube. When I'm looking for a measurement of how much I like, or when I'm looking to measure the quality, I'll always go to sort of desktop and have a look at the fine, how much pixelation is there. And with the Vuze camera, with the Vuze XR, there's the accuracy and the sharpness. I mean, this is one of the images from it, and it's incredibly accurate and sharp, and the color depth is amazing. But that's what
Since you said depth, I figured we might as well dive into the water
sort of be relaxing by the pool a little bit more.
I think so.
But I always look on a desktop to really compare and see how things are developing and how sharp things are. And if it looks good on a desktop, then pretty much every other format. I mean, I've got a 4K monitor, so I'm always measuring it. Having grown up, when I say grown up, in the last few years with the consumer and prosumer level cameras and understanding the capability of each, there really is a marked difference between them, and you really see this, especially with the Vuze XR. It's another big leap.
And it's every point for the industry, not just our company, right? But every company. If you think about what the industry's had to create in a very short period of time, incredibly powerful processing engines, incredibly powerful storage solutions, incredible optics, right? So these cameras are seeing more than 200-degree field of view. So they basically look behind them, and then that way you get enough overlap of two videos so that we call them stitch it together, so that you can bring that all together and make it, one video.
Yes.
Now, that's just not us. That's the entire industry that has been investing a lot of time and effort and energy to make that. Yeah. And then in parallel, right, we also have the headset manufacturers and the app developers and the social platforms all figuring out right now, how do we use this new technology and empower the viewers to not just view a picture, but to interact with, to immerse themselves, to create after the event.
Absolutely.
Right?
And that's where there's been another leap. The ease of actually, I mean, back in the day, you actually had to stitch the video together. You had to go through so many processes. Now, I mean, even let's take Adobe, for example. They've really caught up on the post-processing if you have the Adobe Creative Suite. So now you can drop your footage into that, and there's a whole set of tools that have, in the great scheme of things, only recently been added in the past couple of years, really. And many manufacturers, I mean, you're obviously developing your own at Human Eyes. The Human Eyes VR Studio is, again, growing and developing to meet the needs of your users. And I always get the impression that you guys are really listening to what your users really want and the needs and requirements.
That's an important piece. So we make a very strong effort to two things. One is community. So we loosely call these people who use our equipment, we call them Vuzers or Vuze users, right? Vuze camera users. And so we have a very strong and healthy community out there. But of equal importance is that we take the voice of the customer, right? Conversations with talking people, like even with you, as you were developing and you were doing your first projects and you're like, oh, wow, I wish I could do this, right? So take that voice of the customer and we work on building that in. And then they can help bring that back into the community and really kind of push the boundaries of creating and using the tool. Because don't lose sight, new camera technology is really just another tool. It's no substitution for good camera technique or interesting camera placement or, you know, interesting projects. How you decide you want to.
An interesting project. Nothing beats an interesting project, you know, to engage. I think that from a user point of view, engaging with Human Eyes, Vuze, etc. I think it's important to understand. I've really always tried to bear this in mind, thinking, you know, as a business owner myself, there's things I can request now, and then there's an understanding that, you know, sometime in the future, you know, it's what's reasonable now and what's reasonable in the future, and saying, hey, it will be great in the future, but now, you know, maybe we could look at the histogram adjustment, maybe we could look at the way certain elements work, and it's understanding that as somebody feeding back and saying, hey, can we have this request? If you were on the other side of that request, how complex is that? How reasonable is that? And it's good to future gaze and to look at what might happen in the future. Say, hey, wouldn't it be great if, you know, we could automatically do this, this, and this? But right now, there's something that really seems like just with a bit of adjustment, we could just that little bit of a tweak. And I think I read the comments on the user group on Facebook. I think there really is quite a strong community, and I do think that two-way process really goes on. So
it does. You bring up a really interesting point, because I'll go back to my early career. So I started long ago. I don't want to say how long ago, but I will tell you that the first digital camera that I marketed for consumers took pictures onto a floppy disk.
Ah, okay.
A little floppy disk drive, which maybe you don't even know about. But
I'm not that young, but let's just call that back in the day, shall we say?
Back in the day. And at the time, I would go into like a photo store or something like this and say, hey, look, I could take pictures without film. And the people behind the counter would say, get out of here. No one's going to buy that. The image quality is terrible. It takes you an hour to get a picture onto your computer. But I can print an entire roll and give somebody 2 prints of each in an hour. And so there are all of these hurdles. And at the time, I was working for Sony Electronics. And Sony, as a very disciplined Japanese company, they would hold a product until release. And then once they released it, there were really no updates to it. Okay. So no firmware updates, no improvements. It's like, that's kind of what it was. The world has changed. And users of technology have become familiar with things like a firmware update or software versions or new apps or third-party apps. So when you buy a piece of hardware, you're just starting at the beginning of a journey. Because progressive companies like what we're doing and others in the industry are going to be able to do continual improvement to add new features to your existing technology as the technology catches up. So we've built a lot of capabilities inside of the hardware that I won't say future-proof, but give you a very long life cycle of that camera, not just a 6-month or 12-month life cycle that the early digital cameras had. This is something that we're going to be able to continue to improve over time.
Well, I was going to say, is there anything, I appreciate that some of it's confidential, but is there anything you can talk about right now for, say, Vuze XR users that's coming up that you can talk about, or is it a bit hush hush?
I can. Here's something that really excites me, right? So we recently signed an agreement with NTT Docomo. Now, NTT Docomo is the largest cell phone provider in Japan. I think you have Orange in the UK, or at least they do in France.
Yes,
right?
We have Orange, yeah.
We have AT&T or Verizon. In Japan, they have NTT Docomo.
Actually, don't quote me. They may have been bought out by EE, but again, I may be incorrect, sorry.
Somebody in there. Regardless, what Docomo is doing is they stood up a 5G laboratory in Guam. And Humanize is partnering with Docomo and the Guam Power Authority in order to provide real-time live streaming of high-quality VR content from the field to a headset using 5G technology.
Wow. Okay.
Now, that is not available to consumers today. However, it is technology that we're developing now for the future.
Absolutely.
And so we continue to learn from that process and to be able to refine and all of that. So, we're going to continue to release more information on that as it goes.
Absolutely.
There's actually a couple of press releases out on it right now that you can read to get a bit more background on how progressive and how aggressive Docomo is as it relates to the 5G future, because 5G is really exciting stuff.
Wow, absolutely. Let me just ask you a question. In your development of the Vuze Plus and the Vuze XR, maybe give me 2 particularly exciting moments from that entire process that you went through. When were the moments that the team got together and said, wow, we've really achieved something here?
There's so many of them, but I'm going to give you 2 that I think are kind of really interesting. One is after we started receiving footage back from the International Space Station floating above the Earth. So we worked with National Geographic and NASA. And we took the Vuze camera and sent it up to the International Space Station. And National Geographic actually made a short about a day in the life of an astronaut. And you actually get the opportunity of floating through the International Space Station in 3D VR.
Wow. Okay.
And the thing that was so amazing to that is not just the end piece, but the day we started getting footage down from the space station, and we were asked to stitch that content for National Geographic. So even before National Geographic and NASA really had an opportunity, we were stitching this amazing content, very, very first 3D VR content from space. It literally put chills up my spine. So that was the one that was most exciting. And then the second one is actually the launch of the XR. Okay. And the reason the launch of the XR is exciting to us is it was the world's first kind of bridge product. Sorry, my phone is ringing.
Okay.
I don't know if you can hear that, but we'll just let that go through. Hold on one second.
We'll just take a brief interlude here.
Okay, I'm back. The power of technology. So anyway, the XR, when we launched it and got it into the market, it's a milestone for us because it's the first bridge product that takes a consumer from a 2D world, right, an arm's length experience. Hey, I'm looking at these pictures on my mobile phone, all the way through to proper 3D stereo that can be viewed in a VR headset. And so this is a way that is going to transform the industry. And I hope that someday the industry will look back and they'll say, boy, that is the floppy disk equivalent of
Yes.
right of
Yes,
what's happening in the
yes,
industry, because
yes,
we're
yeah.
empowering people to do something that they don't know that they want or how to do it yet. But once they see it, they're absolutely amazed.
Yes.
So I'm going to actually just show you a picture real quick, just for giggles, because I think it's kind of funny. So on that launch, there's two things, and it's funny you brought that up because I happened to pull this. So shameless plug for my trip to Israel. So our team is actually based in Israel. So I went to the Dead Sea the week that we launched this, and I went and took the opportunity to float in the Dead Sea. Oh, that's me. Without my glasses on.
Now we get to compare.
To mud. There you go. But what was really fun about it is just the team. What I really love about Humanize is it's the team and it's the people. And there's a culture for excellence and success and hard work and dedication, like really like no other company that I've ever worked for. And for me, it's so rewarding to see a group of people who not only go and push the limits and push the boundaries of what technology allows today, but have the vision and foresight to say, hey, we're going over there, right? We're going to go do that. So I think those are my 2 points. One's going up to the International Space Station, and the other is launching the Vuze XR.
Yes. And I think that kind of adaptability and kind of ability to move with the times and see, and predict, hey, this is where we want to be in a few years. I think that's also driven by the web, because we are able to, that level of communication between Facebook, between the ability to, exchange the files, even this that we're doing now. I mean, we're talking about Vuze products, but I'm in England. I live in Chester. So I'm standing in a room in Chester, and you are.
I'm in Austin, Texas.
So, which is probably considerably warmer than here, but okay, I can't have it all. But even the ability to do this, and that level of communication, adaptability, it creates a lot more of a fluid sort of process in terms of improvement, and that whole feedback and improvement loop that seems to constantly go on at Vuze, where it's kind of responding and kind of working out where things are going.
Yep. And that improvement, by the way, is possible because of people like you. I go back to look at your very, very first videos and then what you're producing now. I mean, the work is just getting exponentially better, and, tying in the music and syncing. And I remember one of your very early videos, you had taken kind of a dark room and you put lights around people and stuff like that. And it was like nobody in VR had ever done that before. And although it looked like it was so simple, it was such a powerful tool for the industry to get excited about.
Yeah, it's difficult for me to show this at the moment, but if you can see, if anyone remembers the video that I created, I wrote a track a while ago, One More Chance. And I had the idea, I was looking on Amazon. I mean, this is actually one of the blog items on the Vuze website. I was looking in Amazon and I spotted, so I knew I'd actually got the Vuze camera at the time. It was the very first Vuze, and I was looking on Amazon and spotted some glow in the dark. It was like glow in the dark paint or something, and that sparked an idea. What if you had a completely black room and all you had was a glow of paint? How would that look? How would that work? And so then I developed the idea. I bought some of that paint, and what happened was it actually didn't work very well because it was glow-in-the-dark paint, and it was just that it wasn't bright enough because it doesn't actually reflect that well. So what I thought was I'll get some glowing wire, and the level of contrast that I could achieve meant that I could really get a black background, and it was just the wire that was appearing. So then I thought, well, I'm going to build a suit out of this ELY, get some. It was like a ski undersuit, so it was made of really stretchy material. I mean, the suit. The first prototype didn't last a huge amount of time because it kind of stretched. I mean, I've still got it now. You could still wear it, but it stretched quite a lot from the very first take of this video to the very last. And that was one of my moments when I thought, hey, I've got this camera, and I was literally in my bedroom with all the curtains closed. It was completely dark. And I managed to do a little test where I got some of the wire, dangled it around, and kind of moved it around the room, and then looked at how it looked in 3D. I think I converted it to an anaglyph, or I looked at it in a headset. I think Samsung Gear VR, and I knew right then exactly what I was going to do with this. The most tricky bit about this was actually the I probably shouldn't say too much about it, was the Google Tilt Brush rendering was quite tricky. But you know what? Those guys were helpful too. So I had you guys helping me out with the one side of things, and that was a great interaction. And then the Google guys were kind of saying, hey, you know, we like what you're doing here as well. And overall, it was a really great. I mean, you can see all the different people that were involved here, and I got permission from all of those people, and had interaction with, you know, people from Blocks, people from Tilt Brush. And so what started out as a Vuze camera project I ended up speaking to people from Google as well as you guys from Vuze. So it really was an interesting collaboration. And obviously, I was kind of saying to Yahav, also, I've got something coming. I didn't want to say too much in case it didn't work out, but I was kind of like, oh, I think this is going to work out. I think it's going to work out. And then it did, and he was like, wow, okay, we love this, you know. So yeah, and then I haven't got the image here with me, but I kind of followed up with another music video last summer, which was trying out the Real Space 3D. And actually, you guys supplied a desert background, like 4 desert backgrounds, and I actually did my first green screen. I've been doing video for years, but I've never had to do green screens. That was my first ever green screen experiment. And again, you guys supported me on that, just for that final little bit of refinement in that project, and that was, again, really appreciated, and just helped to you know, push it over the line, get it completed to a high standard. So yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to give you a challenge, and then, you know, we've had such a great conversation. Like, there are so many. We ought to make this a series, and then spend, you know, every other week, sit down and just choose a topic, talk about things. Maybe people who are watching this could give us recommendations or suggestions of what they want to hear, and then we'll come back and do it. But I'm going to throw a challenge at you now, because I think there's a huge opportunity to use VR 180.
Okay.
Right. So using the Vuze XR and VR 180 on green screen, close to the subject, so you get a very dramatic 3D, then model multiple green screen into a 2D plate of some sort.
Right.
That could be absolutely amazing.
Yes.
Think about that.
Right. The green screen challenge. That's what this is called.
There you go. Hey, and you know what? If anybody else viewing this video wants to get involved in the green screen challenge, maybe we should invite others to get involved too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, for me, when I first did that green screen, these kind of challenges and this kind of situation, you learn about the technology. 2, you learn about video production methods, and then you can take those methods into other projects you might be doing. And what tends to happen is it sparks other ideas. So you try that, and then, hey, you've got something else comes along, and you know how you might handle it. It's like another part of your toolkit. You have the tools to create the video, but you have your skills that you can go and experiment with. So,
yeah. So I love all of that. And I guess the last piece that I'll say is, yes, I want to sell a lot of cameras, but for us at the industry right now, it's less about what camera you use and more the fact that you are creating something.
Yes.
Right. So we kind of say all creators are welcome. We don't wall our communities. We don't exclude people because they might use another camera or something like that. If you're a creator in this space, we want to be involved with you. We want to hear what you're doing. We want to know how to make our products better, because even though we don't have a $50,000 11K, 90 frame per second or 60 frame per second camera out today, right? We need to evaluate, in the future, is that what the market needs? So those are the kinds of things. And I love the fact that the industry engages with us as much as they do. So that anybody watching this video, I'm going to address the camera, right? Anybody that's watching this video now, come on down.
Great. Now that's I think that nicely rounds off. I don't know how long have I got a virtual. I haven't got a virtual watch. No, I have got a virtual watch. How long?
I just don't know what. I just don't know what time we.
No, I don't know what it says. Here it's 10 past. It's 11 minutes past 10. You
okay? So I'm 11 minutes past 4.
Okay. So I really hope you've enjoyed listening to myself, Pete Simcoe, and Jim Malcolm of Human Eyes, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
We do. Put your comments down below, and we'll do our best to answer your questions.
Bye-bye.